Yeah. Because sometimes, you know what? Let me tell you about the benefit of even when we come to worship together in the evening. Because sometimes not everybody has an opportunity to come to worship in the morning. And so this is the time that they do have. See, I knew I was right. Even Jesus is calling right now. Tell us that, you know what? Yeah. Say he's telling the truth. That's confirmation. But you know, so sometimes somebody may not have an opportunity in the morning to come and worship with the saints. And so now they have an opportunity to come in the assembly to worship. Don't you think they just want to make sure that they're around some people that they can worship with? They don't want to feel left alone. Like, oh my goodness, boy, if you don't come in the morning, something wrong with you. What? Yeah, you miss it. But it's all good. We're talking about our highest priorities. And we're just going to do a quick recap of some of the stuff we talked about this morning, not everything, and then we'll just, the train will just keep on rolling, right? The train will keep on rolling. We talk about how Paul gave Timothy his charge, and he said, like, you know what? I'm actually commanding you. I'm commanding you in the presence of God, in the presence of Jesus Christ. In other words, as the heavenly council is my witness, I'm giving you this command. And he says that, since the church is actually built on the foundations of the apostle and the prophets, then I'm actually commanding you by the authority invested in me or given to me by Jesus Christ. This is my command. And what is the command? He says that you need to do some things. He gave him his responsibilities. And his responsibilities, he told him that he need to make sure that he preached the word. He said, that's it, right? You need to preach the word. Nothing more, nothing less. Preach the word. Too many times we find ourselves wanting to preach other stuff other than the word, but he said that's what we ought to preach. And the reason that we know we ought to preach the word is because the time is coming when we're going to be held accountable. We're going to all stand before the judgment seat of Christ. And so you better make sure that what you're preaching and teaching is God's word, God's message, right? He said to do that. He said to be ready in season and out of season. You got to do it when it's popular, when it's convenient, and even when it's unpopular and when it's inconvenient. Sometimes there are people that's actually going to walk with you, and sometimes there are people that's actually going to desert you. We even see Paul, as you continue reading here in 2 Timothy chapter 4, you see he even talk about some people who deserted him because he said, Demas has forsaken me, having loved the present world more than he actually loved it. So, Demas, man, he was there with Paul. He was a fellow laborer, and he forsook Paul. Paul says everybody is not really going to want to walk the way that you're walking. But regardless, you still have to remain steadfast. You got to remain steadfast. Peter tells us that we got to be ready at every time so that we can give an answer about the hope that is within us. So you have to be ready. He says in season, out of season. The evangelism is always in season. You don't have, I know we may have done spring gospel meetings here and fall gospel meeting and summer gospel meeting and winter gospel meeting. Those are just encouragements. That's all they are. They're encouragement. But evangelism is always in season. When is the right time for me to tell somebody about Christ? Every time, right? It is the right time. He said, be ready in season, out of season. And look what he says. He says that you got to convince people. You're going to have to reprove some people. You're convincing people because there are some falsely held beliefs that some people have, that in order for them now to accept the truth of the gospel, they have to be convinced in their heart that what they believed all this time is error. You know why every one of us are sitting in here? If we did not grow up inside of, some people say, I grew up in the Church of Christ. If you grew up anywhere else other than the Church of Christ, you know why you became a member of the Church of Christ? Because you heard the truth and it told you that whatever it is that you believed for all that time was not in accordance with God's word. Is that the reason why you left? So there you have it, right? So the word of God was able to convince you. So what is Paul saying? Paul is telling Timothy, preach the word, because the word has the power to convince. The word has the power to change. The word has the power to transform. So preach the word, nothing less, nothing more. You got to convince. We talk about that. We talk about another thing he told him is that you got to rebuke. We talk how, sometimes some people going to want to, brother, you nailed it. You brought the word. You did this. Oh yeah, that's all good. But what about when it is now directed at us? Not saying that the message is curtailed to you, but what about when the truth of the message hits you directly? It's all right when you can watch it goes down somebody's boulevard. Oh boy, they sure taking the message to them. But what about when it turns around and comes down your lane? See, sometimes when we don't want to hear the truth of the message, what we do is that we find a reason to leave. You're going to see that in the next couple of verses. So we'll find a reason to leave. I remember one time somebody was telling me, you can tell how healthy the church is by how many people sits in the back. It's not an indictment on you, South Lumberton, just that we just don't love sitting in the front. Yeah, but I'm just saying. He said, you will see everybody clamoring for the back because eventually somebody going to slip out the door unnoticed. So he says, that's one of the first things I look for whenever I go to a new congregation. That's somebody told me that. So you ain't got to get angry at me. I'm just repeating what they told me. He said to rebuke. Many of us don't like being rebuked. Many of us don't like being confronted with the truth. But the truth is the truth. God says that the only thing that can set us free is the truth. So we must hear truth. Say good for rebuking. And he says now that what you ought to do is to exhort. Oh yes, many of us, we need to understand that we have to encourage. One of the things that we are not really good at is exhorting each other. We don't seem to have, and when I say we, I'm not really just talking about South Lumberton, y'all. I'm talking about the body of believers. Believe it or not, there has been a paradigm shift even in the way that we operate. Any of you remember when you were younger in the faith, how it seemed like there was a community of elderly who would always be there ready to give you counsel and guidance? Anybody kind of notice it's lacking? Well, I know we don't have a whole lot of young people here, right? But I'm just saying, in a lot of places that you go, it is lacking. And you see a lot of the young people are not as involved in a lot of stuff as it is anymore. I mean, I remember we used to have camps when I was at home in Antigua. We used to have camps like in the summertime. All the youths will gather together. They will rent out like a primary school or something like that. And then they will allow us to actually camp out in the school. We could use the kitchen area and stuff like that. They come and inspect, make sure that we take care of their stuff. And then we'll be there. We'll get lessons and we'll have games, Bible bowls and all those type of stuff that they used to have. Man, these things are like things of the past now. So one of the things is we don't have a whole lot of stuff engaging, exhorting our youths. And so the youths grow up. And then what do we find? It's like a lot of the youth say well, I don't even know if I can continue in the church. I need to find something else that I can actually do. And then a lot of them exit stage left. So he says, we got to exhort them. We got to encourage them. We got to give them some comfort. We got to come alongside them and let them know hey, we're all in this together. And we're going to help you along. That's what it means, right, for us to exhort. But even though Paul is writing to Timothy, and Paul says, Timothy, this is your charge, and you have this duty that you have to perform. We talk about all of this has application for each and every one of us today. We don't just have to leave it up and say that's only the minister that needs to do that, but each and every one of us has an obligation, right? You can actually find how to make the application. Now let's look at the third point. We're going to look at the third point. We're going to get over these 2 points here. We're going to look at the people's response, why Paul wrote these words to Timothy. And the reason why he wrote these words to Timothy is because the people were tuning out. I just told you that some people are tuning out. Some people are clocking out. You know, they checked in. Yeah, they checked in this morning. They clocked in this morning, and then they check out early. That went over some heads. It's okay. So he says, he said to Timothy in verse 3, let's look at verse 3 and verse 4. He says, this is what's going to happen. Timothy, this is what you're up against. And this is why I'm actually commanding you. This is why I am actually telling you that I'm charging you as God as my witness, as Jesus is my witness. He says that the time is actually coming, Timothy. There comes a time that many, for the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine, but according to their own desires, because they have itching ears, they will heap up for themselves teachers, and they will turn their ears away from the truth and be turned aside to fables. Let's look and see what is actually going on. Because the same thing that happened to them is the same thing that's happening today. And what's happening today? You know that many people come to worship, but they leave a certain part of them behind. So they come to worship, but they do not come to worship with a readiness to hear the word and to be examined. I won't say it again now. Many do not come with a readiness of mind to hear the word and to be examined. Many today are worshiping to be entertained, not to be examined. I don't want you telling me about my life. I don't want you to highlight the sin in my life. Don't preach about my sin. If I want to engage in fornication, that's my business. That's between me and God. Don't you dare preach about fornication. We just want to be entertained. Man, the singing was awesome. The preaching was powerful. It was dynamic, as long as it's not directed at me. And oh boy, everybody looked great. And now we feel good and we check the box. And so now we could go home. So I'm not here to see, boy, yes, the word challenged me today. And the word shook me to the core. And boy, do I need to change. No, many don't want that. So what? Because they don't want that, many come with a mind to criticize. Many come to critique the minister for mistakes in his messages than for actually hearing the truth of the gospel. Come on now. I mean, boy, I tell you why. It sure wasn't good today. Because the singing was off. I'm just saying they criticized him. But many come to critique rather than to be examined. I'm here to be entertained. And because I'm here to be entertained, I'm making sure that everything go according to my particular checklist. Was the singing on point? Because many will leave out here and say, boy, I didn't even feel the singing today. It's not about what you feel. Was God reverenced today? Was the truth preached today? Did you come with a readiness to say, I'm here to partake in the Lord's Supper and to fellowship with my brothers and sisters? I'm here to help to pray on behalf of someone. I'm here to give generously of my means. Is that what it is? See, no, because we come and we want to look for mistakes. I don't know why she wore that dress to church today. She knew that dress wasn't the right dress for her to wear. Why did he always come with the one suit? Every time he come, he wear the same thing over and over. Why don't he ever go do this? Why don't he ever go? You see all the critiquing that we have? We just here to look around and gossip. Now, like I said, South Lumberton, I don't want you to just think that I'm taking the baseball bat to you. Brother Frank, I'll leave that to you. I'm not going to do that. So I'll leave it to Brother Frank. So here's what it says. So look at what, he says it's a soft bat. It's just foam bat. It's foam. Let's go to the book of Isaiah. Isaiah chapter 30. It's not up on the screen, but Isaiah chapter 30. And we're going to look at verse 9 to verse 11. Isaiah chapter 30. Yeah. Isaiah 30. And we're going to look at verse 9 to verse 11. Verse 9 to 11. Yeah. Let's see what it says now. Because look, that these people are what? They're stubborn rebels. They're a rebellious set of people. They refuse to pay attention to what? They don't want to hear what God has to say. And we read in this, but we're going to go back to 2 Timothy after we read this, because you're going to see that Paul is actually telling Timothy the same thing Isaiah is actually saying here. All right? Look at this now. They tell what? They tell the seers, stop seeing visions. And they tell the prophets, don't tell us what is right. You see that? We don't want to hear what God has to say. So don't tell us what God revealed to you. We don't want to hear that. Tell us what? Tell us nice things. Yeah, tell us nice things. You know, hey, look, man. Come on, Brother Morris. Come on, Brother Campbell. Come on, Brother Brother Thompson. Come on, Brother Chris, whoever it is, Brother McCoy, whoever it is. Don't tell us no truth. Tell us what we want to hear. And we'll be good. You see, you tell us the truth, we may stop coming. But now you start telling us some lies that will entertain us. Boy, we'll be there in droves. You see that? Tell us lies. Look at what he says in verse 11. Forget all this gloom. I'm talking about truth. Ain't nobody want to hear truth. Get off your narrow path. Stop telling us about your Holy One of Israel. All you want to talk about all the time is Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. All you want to talk about is every time you come around, you just want to talk about Bible. You want to talk about Bible. I don't know what else you want them to talk about. Right? Yeah. Paul told Timothy, because they have itching ears. That's the problem. And because they have itching ears, look at what he says now. They're the ones that's going to manipulate. You see what Isaiah said the same thing. They try to manipulate the messengers. Change the message. Oh yeah, you got some people today, they want to, like I said, because they want to critique, they want to examine that message to make sure you can remove the truth. Don't talk too harsh about that. You know, you go to a lot of places, and someone had told me about it, and I said, you know what, I'll start listening. And it is true. I noticed, like I said, there's a paradigm shift. When I was younger coming up in the church, I used to hear a lot of message about hell. Anybody? I used to hear a lot of messages about hell. Boy, if you don't change, if you don't stop this, you're going straight to hell. You got to change your ways because hell is real. You know what you don't hear a lot of these days? Messages about hell. Everybody want you to give me a motivational sermon that can take me through the week. I'm trying to tell you. And you have ministers who do the same thing too. Well, I'm just trying to help you get through the week. Without the truth, that is. Anyway, y'all. So they will heap to themselves. They're going to gravitate to those teachers that's actually going to feed them the things that they want to hear. And if you are not giving them what they want to hear, they may even get rid of you. so they can put their own puppet in the pulpit, and then says, okay, now you go ahead and entertain us. And I'm trying to tell you, in the religious world that we live, in the world that we live today, church has become nothing more than a theater. The pulpit has become nothing more than a stage. And the speakers have become nothing more than actors. Come on, I'm telling you. People are going to church today to be entertained. I sit and I want to watch all the teams now. Go up there and let's watch the groups. And now you will have groups that will actually go and say, we're not the choir, but we actually going to be the group. And all we're going to do is just entertain you for a few minutes. And then before you know it, I'm telling you, it's coming. You're going to walk into a Church of Christ one of these days and you won't recognize it. You're going to see praise dancers and everything up there. You think I'm joking? It's coming. It's coming. You're going to walk into one and it's going to have some Congo drums over there. You think I'm joking? It may, hey, I'm just telling you. Let's look in the book of Jeremiah, Jeremiah chapter 5. And the reason why they want to do this is because they like it. They love it. Look what Jeremiah says. Jeremiah chapter 5, and we're going to look at verse 30 and 31. Jeremiah 5, 30 and 31. He said, a horrible and shocking thing has happened in the land. A horrible and a shocking thing has happened in the land. What has happened, Jeremiah? Look at this. He said, the prophets give false prophecies. The priests rule with an iron fist. Worse yet, my people like it that way. They love it that way. So Paul is actually telling Timothy here, like, the time is coming when there's actually going to be a great apostasy in the church. That people are going to depart from the truth and they're going to want to now listen to lies because the lies is entertaining to them. Why are they going to do it? God had already told us. He used Isaiah and Jeremiah to tell us this, that it's coming, it's happening. But look at what Jeremiah says. Because the people like it that way. So why would false doctrine prevail in some places? Because the people like it that way. You see, the people liked it that way that they demanded a king. Despite God's warning of what would happen, but they wanted it that way. And now Paul is saying some people are taking liberty with the church and corrupting the church because they like it that way. You see, one of the reasons that you have a lot of people who do not want to continue to hear truth is because truth creates or it causes a lot of discomfort to us. It causes a lot of discomfort. It defeats the opinions and the excuses that a lot of people have. And because they do not want to submit to the authority of truth, then they will turn to lies, they will turn to fables. Because truth is demanding your obedience. Truth demands your submission. It demands your surrender. It demands your compliance. And the people says, we do not want to change. And because I do not want to change, I would rather go someplace else. You see, these are the same people that God called a stiff-necked people. Because I cannot say, yes, God, you won. So no, I am not going to submit to the truth. I will rather go someplace else, right? You see, you have people who want to crave the devil's junk food over God's nutritious meal that he gives you in the gospel. And because of this, many become spiritually malnourished. See, I no longer want to eat spiritual food. I'm eating the lies. I'm eating the deceptions that the devil gives me. And so what happens? anyone who is malnourished only set themselves up for failure, because now the body is susceptible to all kind of diseases, all kind of sickness. Now you can't fight off anything. And when the devil sees that you're malnourished, oh yes, he goes after you. You don't believe me? Just watch any National Geographic show. You know, I saw this before and I was like just blown away. I was looking at this stuff and it was showing a herd of buffaloes, the water buffalo. You know, they're like the biggest enemy of the lion. Them and the lions, they just can't get along. And the water buffaloes, they're moving. And then, you know, it's showing that the lion locked on to one buffalo and they knew that's the buffalo we taking down. The buffalo was big. They didn't go after the baby buffaloes, which a lot of times they will try to go after the babies because they can easily overpower them, right? But they watched. And they kept on rewinding this one particular scene just to ask if anybody could actually figure out what was going on and why the lions locked in on this one. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I don't get it. Where is it at? And then they slowed it down slow enough. And one buffalo was walking with a slight limp. He was walking with a slight limp. And they figured, that one can't outrun us. Because he can't outrun us, that's the one they locked on. And what I'm trying to say is, you best believe that the devil and his angels, they're watching how we move. They're watching to see who have an active prayer life. Do you really talk to your Father? Do you have a connection with him? If you don't talk to him, it's because you don't believe in him and you don't trust him enough. And that's why you're not talking to him. Oh yeah, if you ain't, that's one that we can actually go after, because he ain't gonna pray and ask the Father to deliver him from us. I'm just trying to help you out now. That's all I'm here to do, right? Try to help you out. We got to watch how we do it. But look at this. Let me just give you a little bit of a word of advice. And it goes to you and it goes to me and it could go to everybody. Because the devil wants to feed us his junk food so that we don't feast on God's nutritious food. So here are some words of advice to each and every one. Let's look more at the scriptures before we look at the screens. All of us, we have screens. We have our phone screen. We have our tablet screens. We have our computer screens. We have our TV screens. Let's look more at the scriptures before we look at the screens. Is that all right? But you know why? Because each of us can do that. We could put down scrolling for a while. Give our fingers a break. The second thing we can do, we can follow the truth instead of following trends. Too many of us, we what's the popular trend? And maybe the popular trend may be sayings, it may be clothing, it may be equipment, it may be whatever it is, but let's follow the truth before we start following popular trends. Let's listen to the gospel before we listen to gossip. Boy, there's always a juicy conversation that we could get into. But let's listen to the gospel a little bit more. You know what? We can all follow the word before we follow the world. Jesus looked at a couple of fishermen and asked them to follow him. And they said, you know what? We're willing to follow you even before we follow in our Father's footsteps any further. What am I saying? We got to follow Jesus before we follow everybody else. Jesus is not going to lead us wrong. And that is one of the reasons why sound doctrine matters so much today. Because of all the mess that false doctrine have really caused us. And because of all the mess that our love for lies and falsehood has created. Because oftentimes we want to blame it so much on the false teachers. But let's not overlook what Paul told Timothy. Let's go to Timothy. Let's go to Timothy. Let's go to Timothy. Let's get back there. Oh my goodness. 2 Timothy chapter 4. Look at what he says. 2 Timothy chapter 4. He says, the time is coming when they will not endure sound doctrine, but according to their own desires. Don't forget that. According to their own desires. They have itching ears, and they will heap up for themselves teachers. So because they like it that way, they will go and recruit. They will recruit their own people to teach them. See that? Oh my goodness. So how about we ask God to put his word in our heart? Put this word in our heart, put some grace in our speech, and put some courage in our bones, so we can actually go out there and actually say, you know what? We have a big fight ahead of us, right? He said they're doing this. Why? Because they have itching ears. It's not that their ears is itching like this. Oh no. Their itching ears is that I don't want to hear that. I want to hear what I want to hear. I have a craving for this, and this is what I need to be fed. Tell me about this, because I want somebody to tell me that the sinful life I'm living is okay. And like I said, there are many people today who have accommodated this, who have not the courage to tell someone, no, your sinful lifestyle is an abomination unto God, and you need to change your way. You need to change your way. So now what do you have? You know, nowadays, I'm not saying that in the Church of Christ it's there yet, but I'm just saying, look around in the religious world. You know, there are even gay churches, gay churches, where the ministers are gay. The men are married to other men. Women are married to women. And they try to tell you, oh my goodness, but let's not get into all of that. Yeah. But look at what Paul says now. He said they're going to turn their ears away from the truth, and they're going to be turned aside to fables. Now, verse 5, we're going to conclude with this. This is going to be our last point. He said, but you. I know what everybody want to do. I know what the people want to do. The people don't want to hear the truth. They will turn away from the truth. That great apostasy is coming. But you, Timothy, that he's writing to, but you. And to you and each and every one of you out there, look at what he says that we got to do. But you, be watchful in all things. Be spiritually and emotionally alert in all things. Look at what the Bible tells us in 1 Peter chapter 5. 1 Peter chapter 5 and verse 8. 1 Peter 5 and 8. Because Peter tells us that we got to be careful over here. Be careful, because the devil, he's actually doing something. He says, stay alert. You got to be alert. Be watchful. What he says, that the devil, he prowls around like a what? Like a roaring lion. Yeah, he's looking for someone to devour. And we talked about this before. The lion, he's not the biggest animal on the savannah. He's not the strongest animal on the savannah. He's not even the fastest animal on the savannah. He's not even the tallest animal on the savannah. But you know what? The lion has something over all of the other animals. The lion has attitude. He has an attitude. He has a presence. The lion says, despite your size, despite your strength, despite your speed and everything, when I look at you, you're just a meal to me. You're just a meal to me. And what I'm saying is, imagine when the devil looks at many of us, the devil says, you know what? I know you claim to praise God. I know all of this stuff, but when I look at you, I see a meal. Let me tell you this real quick. I'm getting ready to close my lesson, but let me tell you this real quick. Anybody remember that? Anybody remember God's creation? The Bible tells us God formed man from the dust of the ground. From the dust of the ground. He formed man from the dust of the ground. Don't forget that, right? Anybody remember when God meted out his punishment. He punished Adam. He said that the earth is no longer going to bring forth its produce to you like it's doing now, but by the sweat of your brow, that's how you're going to eat. He told the woman that, you know what, childbirth is going to actually be painful for you. Anybody remember the punishment he gave, the cursing he gave to the serpent? He told him, he's going to walk around on his stomach, right? Cursed, you're cursed more than all. You're cursed above all the cattle and everything else, right? And the beasts. And he said, you're going to crawl around on your belly. And what are you going to eat? What is he going to eat? He going to eat what? What are you made from? So what do you think the devil's food is? Oh, yeah. You want to know why the devil is after you? He's only coming to try to eat what he was cursed to eat. Yeah, he ain't worried about going to eat the banana. He ain't worried about all of that. Oh, yeah, I'm crawling around on my belly eating dust. Where is God's dust creation? That's what I'm after. So Peter says you got to watch out for him. He's trying to get a meal. He has attitude. He looks at you. He doesn't matter how much you think you've been exercising, how healthy you think you are. He says, when I look at you, all I see is an opportunity. I see a meal opportunity. Isn't that something? He said to endure affliction. Endure affliction. Let me show you what Jesus said, and this is how we're going to end our lesson. In Luke chapter 14. Luke chapter 14. Luke chapter 14. Yeah. Luke 14. And in verse 26, we're going to look from verse 26. So Luke chapter 14. And let's go to verse 26 real quick. Now, this is Jesus. Jesus is actually talking about counting the cost, because we got to count the cost. And that's what Jesus says. James tells us that afflictions are going to come. And James encourages us to endure affliction. But let's look over and see what Jesus says. So in 26 and 27, Jesus says, if you want to be my disciples, right? If you want to come after me, he said that you have to hate everyone else. You got to hate everyone else, including your parents, your siblings, everyone else, your wife and children. There you go. You got to hate everyone else. He doesn't say that you got to hate them like not speaking to them, not loving them, but you got to love them less as it compares to me. You got to love them less. Yes, even your own life, you got to love yourself less. Otherwise, you cannot be my disciples. In other words, Jesus is saying, you got to put me first. Look at what he says in the next verse. He says that you got to put him first. And not only that, and if you do not carry your own cross and follow me, you cannot be my disciples. But what I really want us to look at is how he actually breaks it down in verse 28 to verse 33. How he breaks it down, because he breaks it down, I'm telling you, that's why Jesus is the best teacher. He says, you do not begin to build, but don't begin until you count the cost. Do not build a relationship with me without counting the cost. You see that? He say, who would begin construction of a building without first calculating the cost to see if there is enough money to finish it? Right? And he says, otherwise you might complete only the foundation before running out of money. And then everyone would laugh at you. So yeah, I'm making a commitment to follow Jesus, and now I run out of energy. I don't have anything else to give. I know everybody will say, hey, boy, I knew you were just going to come right back. You're going to come right back to the dope house. Talking about you trying to be this, right? He says, they would say, there's the person who started that building and couldn't afford to finish it. And look at verse 31. He says, or what king would go to war against another king without first sitting down with his counselors to discuss whether his army of 10,000 could defeat the 20,000 soldiers marching against him? Right? And if he can't, he will send a delegation to discuss terms of peace while the enemy is still far away. And the last verse he says, so you cannot be my disciple again without counting the cost. So you must give up everything that you own if you want to be my disciple. So what he's saying, you, Timothy, you have to be watchful in all things. You have committed yourself to a relationship with Jesus, and you need to make sure that you're faithful. You're faithful in the good times. You're faithful in the bad times. You're faithful in the popular times. You're faithful to him in the unpopular times. You're faithful to him even when people are around you, and be faithful to him even when everyone deserts you. You got to be faithful because it is Jesus who will matter. Because one day, all of us are actually going to stand before him. So Timothy, I want you to do the work of an evangelist, and I want you to fulfill your ministry. Timothy, I want you to be successful in what you're doing, and I want you to make it into heaven. I want you to get your reward. And I'm here to tell you, South Lumberton, Alvin Morris wants for each and every one of us to make it into heaven. I want for each and every one of us to get our reward. So I tell you, I'm taking Paul's word to heart, and I'm taking it seriously. So my duty is to make sure that I'm executing his command, because he's also charging me before the heavenly council. Is everybody okay? God still wants us to listen to his word and to hear the truth of the gospel. He still wants us to believe it. He still wants us to repent of our sins, to confess faith in him, and to be baptized for the remission of our sin. That hasn't changed. It doesn't matter how many come after me, it's still not going to change, because God's word is timeless, transcends all ages. And that is the honest truth. That is the plain truth. That is the only truth. I'm going to turn this over to Brother Shaw for an invitation song. Thank you for your time and your listening ear. God bless each and every one of you.